Ooh, this episode has been a miracle and blessing all in one. I know that you're going to really enjoy this episode with Mr. Gareth Stubbs, Ms. Karin Monster Peters, and Mr. Tyran Mowbray, where we converse about how we are rewiring the stigma around masculinity. The questions asked, the answers given, mind-blowing, goosebumps, confessions made, appreciation, gratefulness, all jam-packed in this episode, and really gets you to think, and I know it's going to get you to think as well. So hop on over to futureforwardhub.com, check out our contributors, learn a little bit more about them. But for now, let's head on over into the conversation. I know it's going to blow your mind. Let me know what you think. Love you lots. We're ready. Okay. Are we ready to dive in and converse all things on how the stigma of masculinity is being rewired? One of the global goals, World Health Organization global goals, good health and well-being and gender equality. And we're moving into the era of masculinity and dissolving of this stigma around it and how we're rewiring it. So, Tyran. Hello, Tyran. I'm starting off with you, doll. In Fantastic. A short sentence, what did you rewire in your masculinity and in the process break the stigma you carried with you for so many years around masculinity?
Enjoying anal doesn't make you gay.
Oh my God. That is so good. Oh,
You want to get honest and real and straight to the point? Let's do it.
Let's do it. This is exactly what I signed up for. Exactly. Right. And that puts it right to the point. My son said something this morning. He was following some dance and he was like, shake your ass. And he goes, oh, I can't do it. He said, oh, only gay people can shake their ass. And I'm like, how the hell did I raise you? So I was like, no, it doesn't work like that. Anybody can shake their ass. So he was like, So I love that. I love that. Care to expand on it or not? But that's a pretty much short sentence. I love that.
Well, Gareth. You love the sentence. I mean, so I guess, I can stop. Gareth?
No. Please carry on.
Well, I guess it's just to extend on it for one little bit. And we touched on this last time, you and I, Gareth, when we were talking about this, is like, the gender identity battle that so many people are being challenged with the non-binary and gender is not binary and stuff. It's like people that question their sexuality are not the only ones that struggle with gender identity. It's so much dogma around what it is to be a man, what it is to be a woman. And my point of like taking the bum doesn't make you gay or enjoying it doesn't make you gay is that it doesn't matter what gender, what fear, what ideology you have around who you are. We all have identity issues as to what the fuck does that mean for me and how do I express that in the world. So it's got nothing to do with am I a man and what does that mean, but actually just how the fuck do I want to experience this life, because that's the only thing that matters.
I love that. Ooh, I love that. I can go so much into that, but we're not going to keep it short. We're going to keep it short. Gareth, in a short sentence, over to you. What made you realize that you had or you were misinformed about masculinity and began the process of rewiring your brain around the stigma of masculinity?
It's quite similar to what Tyran was saying, but like, who gives a fuck about your sexuality?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there is, like Tyran was saying, there's so much more to sexuality than just gender and labels and all that sort of stuff. And it doesn't matter what your sexuality is. You're still a male and you're still a man, and that's okay.
That's okay. And you're okay with it.
That's enough.
It's enough.
Do you know
You're
what
right.
I mean? It's like, Yeah, but there are a lot of men out there who, because they are not comfortable with themselves, question themselves, and they push themselves to be a man. And if they do certain things and if they fulfill certain roles, then that makes them a man in this world. But it doesn't matter. Like, to be perfectly honest, when you're comfortable with yourself, you can step into your masculinity. And it doesn't matter how the fuck you step into your masculinity, sexuality, whatever it is. Like we spoke about last time, you have gender. You're either a man or a woman because you have I'm trying to think of the proper words. A penis or a vagina. That makes you a man or a woman. How you want to express yourself as a man is entirely up to you. Doesn't make you any less of a man.
So the stigma around masculinity and rewiring is around accepting your sexuality and your gender. Is that right? Summed up?
In a nutshell, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, in a nutshell,
removing the stigma of what male sexuality is or means, because I feel like there are so many men that are afraid of male intimacy, and that doesn't mean sex or kissing or penetration, but just any form of male intimacy because of what it means or what it should mean. So therefore we stay completely away from it. And it's like the rapid way to get comfortable in it for me and for a lot of men that I've worked with and I've spoke with and mentor is like, stick a finger in your bum, realize you're not gay, and then go hug your best mate and realize that's all good. Like you can express yourself however the fuck you want, and you are the only one that has to answer any questions you have. That's it.
I love that. Can't wait till this goes live. I'm going to get my kids to listen to this. Listen. Karin, in a short sentence, share with us a moment when you, as a very emotional and highly sensitive mom to 3 kids and wife to an emotional romantic husband, had an epiphany that the stigma of masculinity was still running its course in your life.
My goodness, that's
it's like
one
story.
One sentence, Karin. One sentence.
No, she said a short story. Oh my goodness. Well, I do think it's that moment that my 10-year-old son, he's now 11, comes to me and says to me, I'm pansexual, because he has no idea what he is yet. And he is so confused that he doesn't know that he's allowed to take time to step into it before he puts a label on himself. Mm-hmm. So that just really freaked me out. He's 10 years old. He goes, I think I'm pansexual because I just love everyone. And I'm like, awesome. Yeah, go love everyone, but does not make you pansexual. Mm-hmm. But to him, because he's so confused. I mean, he's hearing this, he's hearing that, and he's like, but I don't know who I am yet. Mm-hmm. And that 10-year-old needs to define this already. Mm-hmm. And I'm seeing a lot of even like children of my clients who are defining themselves this way already at that 10, 11 years old, and already going into like process of, I want a new name and all these things. And I think we're just really confused.
You think?
Really?
So much information that there's almost misinformation.
Everybody's like, we can't think this. We can't. Oh, you're not allowed to say that. You're not. I'm 10 years old. Can I just go through puberty first before I find out who the heck I am? I don't even know who I am. I'm 41 years old and I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. So why do we have, why can we have a life where we can have that exploration process first before we put a label on everything?
This label thing is just getting more and more lately. I tell you what, yeah. Gareth, How many of your personalities are stereotype masculine, and how many have reverted away from the stigmatism? And PS for our listeners, just a side note, and not an announcement or a label again, but Gareth is clinically diagnosed with schizophrenia, which is why I asked which of his personalities react to masculinity and how Gareth, the person on the forefront, is rewiring it.
There are two that are very, very uber masculine. Like, they are the ones that if I go internally and talk to them and listen to them, they are the ones that constantly call me a freak, if that makes sense, because I am not a typical male. I'm not a typical man. The rest really, there is one that's very camp and outrageous and the lunatic and the clown and that sort of stuff. The others don't really conform to anything. Like in my head, if I look at them, they're all male figures. But the others, they're just there. It's almost like they're sexless or genderless or whatever it is. But there's two that are kind of like uber masculine, and then one that is very, very camp.
And it's not like you're rewiring them, it's you who you're rewiring.
It's me, because for so long I allowed myself to fit into a role, whether it was a role for those people around me and the circles that I was in, or a role that I fitted into internally to avoid the constant abuse. So if I behaved a certain way, the hallucinations and all that sort of stuff were a lot easier to manage because they were a lot quieter because I was fitting a role. When I stepped into how Gareth wanted to express himself, then it was like, oh, go fuck yourself, you idiot. You're not doing these kind of things right. And, I have been this year, because of everything that's happened, I've been on a big journey of kind of self-exploration and kind of not redefining who I am, because, there can be sometimes an element of redefining who I am, but kind of remembering who I am, if that makes sense. And kind of detaching myself from whatever fucking diagnosis I have to saying, okay, well, who is Gareth and what is he about? So learning to ignore these kind of roles that you almost get forced into.
Love that. Tyran, I think this leads on to very conveniently what Gareth just said in rediscovering yourself and so forth. Your current thinking is that one doesn't discover themselves, but rather dissolves into themselves, if I remember correctly. Yeah. How does one, for our listeners, dissolve into one's natural state of masculinity? And what does that actually mean? How do I dissolve into myself?
So I'm of the belief that, all right, it's going to get a little bit cosmic for a minute.
Ooh,
The soul that we are incarnated as is genderless. That has no gender. The soul is beyond gender. The human body is a gender, and that's why I feel like there's a lot of us that are starting to, as human evolution and consciousness on the planet is evolving, we are becoming more in touch with our souls. Therefore, we are struggling to identify as masculine, feminine, male, female. And that's where the misconception, that's where the lack of education and information is coming from. So in order to dissolve the idea of masculinity, I needed, for me personally, I went and stepped into lots of feminine things. Like I said before, I received anal penetration as a shamanic ritual to, allow myself to surrender and go through that process. And I was like, oh, it changed nothing other than my fear. So it dissolved my attachment to an identity. It dissolved my idea that to be a man, I had to be a thing. And so when I had one experience like that, I started to seek other experiences where, well, hang on, I was told this thing. well, what if I experience it? Oh, well, I did experience it, and it still didn't change. The lightning didn't strike me down from Zeus or God, and Satan didn't crack open the earth and swallow me up. Fucking nothing happened. And so my identity started to dissolve because I realized that I create it in every moment. So being able to dissolve an attachment to I am Tyran Mowbray, who has this and does this and thinks that and feels this. It's like I am a soul, and in every moment I get to choose how I think, how I feel, how I respond to whatever is arising in front of me. Yeah. So, and that's a hard concept to actually embody all the time, because we have lots of stories and pains and fears, and we seek justification for our emotions constantly. And, you know, I'm not a doctor at any means, but, you know, I feel like we all have voices and noises and bipolarity and things. And I call them archetypes, you know, like for me, they're characters that live inside of me that I get to play occasionally if I so choose. And I get to pick which character I want to play. And that's why I don't have an identity. My name is Tyran Mowbray, but that's a fluid concept. Sometimes I'm a fucking unicorn playing in the forest with my nieces, and sometimes I'm a fucking dragon with my nephews, and sometimes I'm a blob of messy emotional mess. I have nothing other than I'm just watching romantic movies crying because I'm feeling love, you know, like I'm all of it and none of it. So
ooh, I got goosebumps. So many goosebumps. I love that. And for the listeners, this is so, if this is the first time that you're hearing something like this, go and explore, because this is like the best life ever. I myself am learning how to play, because even though I am Sashka in a woman's body, I am very masculine, and I'm learning to dissolve both of them and learning to play with both of them as a soul, genderless. So this is so, so cool. I love this. And if you know about this, then let us know what you think about it as well, what your comments are about it as well. Karin, we speak of, and you speak of it a lot in your profession, of masculine and feminine energy. So when we're conversing about masculinity, in inverted commas, the natural leniency is to lean towards the image of masculine or feminine, what the media tells us or what you've been conditioned to think. When we flip this coin, and rather than seeing the image of masculinity, how could one or our listeners rewire their brains to see any man or woman as gender fluid?
Fluid. Well, I actually, I would go again. I think Tyran just said it all, really. You know, we have to be, we're soul. We're having a physical experience, whatever that may be, but the soul is genderless. And I was doing this program now with my clients on the feminine and the masculine and ancestry. And I actually messaged Tyran, what would you say is the essence of the masculine? Because am I right? Am I right? And he came back with exactly what I was like. Yeah, this is it, right? I love it. But when we're talking about something like this, it's really the evolution. You know, the soul is just wanting to experience everything. The soul did not come here to define itself, because the soul is so big. It's not about defining the soul. It's about experiencing this physical experience here. And whatever that may be, that definition of things is what makes it so difficult. Mm-hmm. So I would really just really go for the experience of life instead of the definition of life.
And let go of that image, whatever that image is, and experience all forms of it.
All forms of it. Let's experience play. Let's experience joy. Let's experience pleasure. But sometimes it's like, the soul wants to experience pain too.
All forms. I love that. The shadow.
Because then it just the experience. It's not the label. It's not the attachment of the story to the pain. There's just so much attachment that takes place as soon as we start let's define this. So this means this about me. And oh my God, attached to it. But it's just the experience of it, and the experience of it all, without the attachment to the story and what it means for you, and that what that says about, oh my, so this is what it says about me.
Love that.
We just have to let go of all the stories. It's like every time somebody just comes to me and they start hashing out their story, and I'm like, okay, I get your story, I hear you, but can you let go of it? And it's so difficult to let go of that story and what they think that says about them and about life.
Yeah. And taking that on as your identity and really dissolving the attachment. Exactly. I love that. Yeah. Oh, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of work. Gareth, I love how you openly share about all your experiences on your life and how you manage each day. And as someone who manages a lot, because you really manage a lot, not to say that all of us don't, but you have a little bit more of your share. Share with us what you have to deal with each day, and how has it affected or molded your mental health, and how have you hereto rewired your brain to not see the diseases or illnesses, this identity that has been given to you, the labels, and detaching from the labels. Damn, for my listeners, I prepared these questions beforehand, and all these answers are flowing into each other. I'm just like, damn. So, Gareth, share with us.
I think for me, the biggest thing that I had to come to terms with, first of all, was like, when I had my diagnosis, I felt like a freak. But at the same time, it kind of like explained so many things and helped everything make sense. And the way that I look at it is like, my brain is no different to yours or Karin's or Tyran's. It just functions in a slightly different way. And when I learn to, it's exactly what Tyran was saying. It's exactly what Karin was saying. This is the experience that my soul chose for me to live with. And when I came to terms with that, it was almost like, I signed up for this when I was born. My soul chose to experience this when I was born. So when I connect with that, it's a lot easier to deal with. When I forget my soul, that's when it becomes challenging. So from a human perspective, yes, I have to live with it. Yes, I have to deal with it. Yes, I have to accept that my brain acts slightly differently to it's like we all have cars, but all the cars are slightly different, similar sort of thing. So, what I've done through kind of like my own personal spiritual beliefs, and then from a human point of view, kind of like working from a place of detachment, I understand what goes on. I know their thought patterns. I know how they talk. That's why I journal every day, because I know their handwriting. So, recognizing those little human things helps me be better prepared how to manage the human side of it. When it gets too much, the easiest way for me is to say, okay, you chose this. So if I chose this, I have the strength and the determination and the resolve to deal with it. If I go back like 20 years plus, I was the victim of it, because it was like, oh, fuck, I don't know how to deal with this. And, whereas now, like I consider the sun is shining. I consider myself to be so fortunate because, I can look at one thing from so many different perspectives at the same time. Mm. And sometimes it can be overwhelming, but at the same time, it's like, whoa, I look at a problem and immediately I have 7 different solutions. I can step into kind of like a role and do things that I have no idea how to do. I use one of my gifts is cooking. I don't know how the fuck I cook. Do you know what I mean? When I try and cook, that's when I mess up. So I've learned to trust the process. I never use a recipe. I never ever, hardly ever cook the same meal twice, because for me it's kind of like, okay, my soul chose this, so I must be able to do it. So that's kind of like how I choose to work with it, and it works for me.
I love it. I wonder if I'm schizophrenic. I'm so similar to you. Anyway, Karin, a mom of a young or almost teenager boy, he's 11 years old.
Yeah.
Where have you noticed the most outside influences come from that tends to influence your son's image of masculinity? And how has he grown up versus the outside world? And more importantly, what magic tools have you pulled out of your Mary Poppins bag to help him stay true to his masculinity versus the world's version, or letting go of these attachments?
Well, I think, television, the media is just such a powerful influence. I think that's the biggest one. Even if you just give them dollies, when they're 1 and 2 years old, they're still shooting with everything. Even if it's just a pencil, it will be like, choom, choom, choom. And I mean, his fingers are excellent. Choom, choom, choom. You're like, what? You're not even seeing, but just takes one image of when that are very powerful. Let's not underestimate media. This is what they see. This is how so I think the media is the biggest outside influence, because we're not shooting at people in our home. And of course in school also the big aggressive children. He was 4. I think when he stepped the second day he was in school, he was already beaten up by 3 big kids. So that is what he was the smallest in his class, and 3 big kids beat him up on the second day of school. And I have a child having nightmares about being beaten up by the time he's 4 years old. So, yeah. And the magic tools to heal that, oh my God, it's just really about allowing any sort of expression to be okay. So you're talking about that shaking the bum. My son can shake his booty and he knows it. And he will start, and he knows that I think it's just awesome that he does that. So, because he's just so cute. So every day, he will stand by my door, he'll turn around, and he does the cutest bum shake that you can imagine. And he just shakes it. And he has a cute bum, like perfectly shaped, and boom. And he just goes around, and he's like, I have a great bum. And I'm like, yeah, you do, baby. So I let him, and he shakes it, and I just and he walks around, because he likes to make me laugh, right? He likes to make me laugh. So he'll do the sassy walk. He'll walk around the house, and he'll be so sassy and shaking his bum. And and I think it's hilarious because he's just so cute. And he's beautiful. He's gorgeous. So I don't say right away, you can't do that. Not how a boy walks, right?
Yeah.
I never say that, because he just wants to make me laugh. And he can shake his bum, and I like that. And so I allow every type of expression. It's not about, there are no magic tools. This is just, again, not confining the way he expresses himself. He comes to me, he's a hugger, he's a kisser. I'm getting like all these, just like, no, he just, and I allow, and whatever, it's like, oh no, a boy shouldn't be, you shouldn't be on my lap at 11 years old and cuddling like that. No, any type of expression, whatever that may be, baby, you do it.
I love that.
And that's there's no tool. That's not it. Just allow whatever. My daughter's the opposite. My 10-year-old girl is very masculine. You want her to wear a dress, she'll die. Also,
like
that also allow whatever any way she wishes to express herself.
Yeah. That identity. I love it. I love it. Oh, Tyran, owning your sexuality when mentally ill from trauma, labels, stigmas, all that crap that goes around with it. There is a constant battle going on in your mind, like constant, and it can really take you down a rabbit hole. And the constant back and forth of wanting to choose you, whoever that is, because you don't know who that is all the time. And as you mentioned before, there's the soul part and then dissolving, and what the world expects of you, friends, families, colleagues, whatever. What connects sexuality with masculinity, and how does it heal mental illness? Are we going on another cosmic trip?
Tyran, I love your face with that.
It's the only way to attack these questions. Like, where did you pull these things from, Sashka? Jesus.
The universe gives me these questions. I'm like, oh,
She stuck her finger up her bum and pulled it out.
Don't ask easy questions. It's a little podcast. Come on. No, dive right in. Make it different.
All right. Can you shoot me the last part of that question again?
What connects sexuality with masculinity, and how does it heal mental illness?
Okay. Ooh, how does sexuality heal mental illness?
Does it connect with one another?
Yeah. Well, the biology of humans is to procreate so that we can continue the evolution of our kind, and that's pretty general for all animal species on the planet. And as humans, we get the benefit of, like, we're one of only a couple of mammals that actually have sex for fun too, because it feels fucking brilliant. And unfortunately, like you said, with traumas, with painful experiences, with people's suppressed emotions or expressions or whatever, we seek for love either the way we experienced it as a child or the way we didn't experience it as a child, which is why so many people end up in an abusive relationship if their parents were abusive, because to them, that's what love is. To them, their father hitting them, as let's say it's a woman and their father hit her, well, her father is the man that is supposed to love her and support her and nourish her, and therefore, well, that's what love is. So when her partner hits her, oh, well, that's what love is. And there is, you know, but obviously that's her human experience. Her soul knows that that's not the case, right? But as Gareth said, our souls choose this incarnation. They choose our parents. They choose our siblings. They choose our experiences. We have soul agreements with each other up in the etheric realms of like, hey, I'm going to come down on earth and I'm going to beat the shit out of you until you realize that you are love and you find that love for yourself again, you know? And it's like, cool, thank you. I'm really looking forward to that experience. You know, like on a soul realm, that's the agreement. And then we come into the human experience and we experience it, and that's the lesson. And it's really hard to come to terms with that when we have been physically, sexually, mentally, emotionally abused. We don't want to take responsibility. You know, we have a very big victim blame mentality in our society, so it's very much always the other person's fault. And on the physical realm, it's not okay to do that. Like, I'm not condoning, oh, well, I did this and that's just my soul acting out on your soul and you deserved it. Like, that's fucking wrong. And at no point do I condone any violence at all to anyone. But to bring this back into sexuality and masculinity, it's for me, sexual energy, the thing that creates life. It creates humans. It is the most potent and powerful energetic force in the entire planet. Like, if you actually understood the odds of you being born, like the chance, you are a fucking miracle. Like, the chances of each of us being born is miraculous. And when you can view it like that, you realize how sacred, how beautiful. Oh, look, my reminder for our podcast that's meant to be in 15 minutes popped up. when you realize the magic that sex is, the magic that sexuality is, the depth, the intimacy, the nourishment, the connection, then magic happens. Intimacy with that intention, magic happens, and healing does occur. And I don't like to use the term that we're all traumatized and we all need healing and we're wounded. Like, yes, we have experiences which are negative and we need to love them, but they're all showing us an aspect of ourselves that needs to be loved. And sometimes that victim part of us needs to be loved, needs to be nourished, so then it can grow and mature and be like, cool, I'm no longer there. I can now take responsibility for my life and where I'm at. So for me, sexuality, there is, when I feel insecure, when I feel scared about who I am and what I am and how I want to be loved and how I want to relate and how I want to experience intimacy or friendship or brotherhood or whatever, when someone can love me in that and bring that all the way into the body and give my body a physical experience or support me in having a physical experience of love, connection, intimacy, ecstasy, that is the feeling of wholeness. An orgasm is literally the greatest feeling you can possibly experience in your body. That is your connection to God, to divine, to spirit, whatever you want to call it. That is your soul realizing itself as pure love. So having that experience with someone or someone supporting that experience with you helps us feel nourished, helps us feel whole. And so, yeah, for me, sexuality, when used with the concept of masculinity, when I'm loved in my brokenness, when I'm loved in my whatever part of me that I don't feel loved in, when someone can love that part of me, it supports me loving that part of me. Which, yeah.
I love that. I know the first time I heard of you, Tyran, I think it was last year sometime, or the year before, I can't remember. And you triggered so many things in me because I was just going through the whole accepting the sexuality and the femininity and the masculinity and how they're all intertwined with one another and not separate. And you'd say things and I go, you fucker. And I remember writing to my team going, get him on my podcast. I have to interview him. I was like, yes. And it is that. It does heal when you let go what we spoke about before, letting go of the attachments to the masculinity and the femininity and how their sexuality breathes life into both of those genders to experience the soul in a human form. So, love that. So I have a few last questions, and before we close off with rapid fire questions. Gareth, if you were able to wave a magic wand and help someone listening today who struggles with owning their masculinity or gender or whatever, what simsalabim chant would you offer to the reader, to the listener, to the reader?
Just be yourself and don't give a fuck what anybody else thinks. Like, I want to add something. I just want to add something quick. Like, since the last call and since meeting Tyran, like, he's had such a huge impact on my life. I don't know how to kind of like explain it because, this whole masculinity thing and what he was talking about now, all the physical and emotional kind of like abuse that you've been going through, you question yourself. And I'll be perfectly honest, like, I've been questioning myself up until recently, and kind of like maybe this is the first time that I'm ever going to fucking publicly say it, but who gives a fuck if I'm gay? Like, my sexuality does not define who I am. And I'm still a man. And that's okay. I don't have to go around. The thing that held me back up until meeting Tyran was, you see so many, and this is no disrespect to them, don't get me wrong. You see so many gay people out there, like, just being defined by being gay. And that's not something that ever made me feel comfortable. So internally, I was having this battle. It's like, well, I know that I'm gay, but I don't want to be like that. Just because I like men, who gives a shit? You know, and like, I've never met him, but that big fucking macho, masculine man who cries at romantic movies, cliche as it sounds, changed my fucking life over the last few weeks. So yeah, who gives a fuck? I don't have to walk around saying, oh, you know, I'm gay. I know. And that's okay. So that's why I say, like, who gives a fuck what people think? Just be you. And that's the most important thing that I've experienced over the last few weeks. It's like, I remembered me. And it's something that I've been wanting to allow myself to remember for so long, and words cannot express. Like Tyran says, we're all connected up here. We're all meant to meet up here. I cannot express my human gratitude and my human thanks, Tyran, for what your soul has said to mine. Like, I wish I was there, because I wouldn't want to stick my finger up your bum, but I would just want to give you the biggest hug and just say thank you so fucking much. Like, I found me, and nothing could ever, I don't know. Anyway, sorry.
Got us all in tears, dude. You got us all in tears. Oh my God. Well, that was a major magic wand.
Like,
Okay.
you're the first people in the whole world, besides one of the guys that I work with, that I've like sat down and kind of like allowed myself to express me. And that's thanks to all of you.
Well, that's all contract we made. Like Tyran said, you know,
Moments.
from the soul level, we were like, I'm going to fucking kick you up your butt and let you see actually what you're made of. And then you come down here, and then somewhere along the line, yeah, it happens. It happens. And just accept that's the healing. That's the healing, the awakening. And like you say, like me personally, I don't give a fuck. I just love you for who you are. You know that already. From the day one, I was like, I love you. I don't know who you are, but I love you. Thank you, beautiful soul. How do I go to the next question? So, Karin, we just say goodbye now. Goodbye, everybody. Have a nice life.
Yeah, hey, I have to now regroup here.
That was a moment. Sure. Okay. All right, I'll just go on to you, Tyran. I'll just go straight on to you. As someone who does some crazy shit, like moon rituals and dancing around fire pits and hugging brothers and crying during beautiful movies, or even in this moment as well, because it is beautiful. So I'm not devaluing it. Your magic wand will enable someone to see the gap between where they are now, unemotionally attached, and where they feel they need to be, totally aligned to their gender fluid self. What magic are you swishing over them?
I'm trying to recover. Firstly, I just want to say thank you, Gareth. I see you, I feel you, I love you, and you're more man than a lot of men I know. So, not that it's a competition, but yeah, I it's funny what actually comes through is nothing cosmic. It's nothing magic. It's a simple statement that I have as a tagline in my business and in my brand, because I feel like there is a lot of power in words, and and it is this concept of like, what type of man am I? What type of man should I be? The man that, what is masculinity? What is manhood? And my tagline is like, be the man that you always knew that you were. That's it. It's like, be the man that you always knew that you were. Doesn't matter what that looks like or who that is. You just be the man you were.
I fucking meant to that.
So interesting, Tyran. I even like my first practice, I had a similar tagline, but in Dutch. So I can't even but it was just exactly, it's just that what you are, like not becoming something else, but being who you are and whatever that may be. It's
Sorry.
Why? For what?
You've never seen us this quiet, I think. Just
I'm like, my brain's going, okay, this is a beautiful moment, and I'm going to close it off right here. I think I'd just like to do the rapid fire questions, and then we'll probably carry on afterwards. Tyran, I think leading on to this, like some people as well, like what book or reading or audio or whatever can you suggest someone listening today to read or listen around masculinity?
They're all rubbish, really, to be perfectly honest.
I was just about to say, just go to Tyran's website. Just
follow me. I'll lead the way.
King Warrior Lover Magician is a great book. It's very old. King Warrior Lover Magician. I can't remember the author. It's very old, but it does give you some context around masculinity. The Way of the Superior Man is a really good book to understand masculine and feminine dynamics, but don't view it in the sense that this is what I need to be a man. View it in the sense of like, this is the essence of masculine energy and the essence of feminine energy, and then like learn to dance in both of them, I mean, those two books, to be honest, I've never even read King Lover Warrior Magician. I just know that a lot of people do. I've read The Superior Man. People ask me, I've never read a book on masculinity because I don't like the idea that I have to be told on what it is. Like, it fucking drives me insane. Everything I do is dissolving that idea. I'm not going to recommend I'm sorry, I'm really going, but I'm not going to recommend a book that I don't fucking 100% get behind. And so Way of the Superior Man is really good for understanding masculine and feminine energies. It's got nothing to do about being a man.
I love that. It's like Gary Vaynerchuk, where he says, I don't read any books, I write them.
Yeah.
I'm just like, that's okay. I go by that one. Great. I love that. Thank you. Gareth, what simple tool can you offer the listeners today, starting their journey towards not giving a fuck what other people think?
I think the easiest thing is to start writing. Sitting in the therapy room, just start writing. Like one of the best exercises I've ever done is write a letter to yourself from a place of kindness and true self-acceptance and true compassion, and tell yourself what you would say to yourself if you truly, truly, truly accepted yourself for who you are. That's one of the most powerful things that I've ever done. And it's something that I revisit regularly, like Tyran. Kind of like some of the books I've read in the past have done me more harm than good, because you have to fit a role and it'll just be something. But you write your own book. Nobody can write a book about your life except you.
Amen. Karin, would you like to add if there's any book or tool?
Well, everything is about the embodiment of You can read 500 books. You can read it all. But if you haven't embodied, I don't teach any tool that I haven't first owned myself. If my body doesn't get what I'm trying to translate to others, why would I even suggest it to anyone?
That's so true.
Everything you do, just embody it, experience it, be it. You don't know until you know. You don't know. Your body understands it and feels it and goes, oh yeah, this is it for me. Books, great. We love them. I'm a reader. We know that. But if it doesn't zing in my body, like that truth bomb, and I feel everything in my pelvic, it just goes, if I don't feel it there, it has to be body.
And it doesn't. Well, this has been enlightening, to say the least. Thank you so much. I knew that this was going to be a powerful session anyhow, this conversation. You just never know until things happen. You have to put whatever the emotions or the thoughts are into action, and then you see results like this, where I am blessed beyond measure. I know I'm going to go through my day today with like, oh my God, I'm so enriched. I'm so in love. I'm so full. This is amazing. I know there are a lot of listeners as well where they're like, the logic sets in. What's this airy-fairy stuff you're talking about? I don't get it. It's not scientifically backed. There's no proof for it. To those listeners, this isn't about convincing anybody. It's not like none of us were on the other side, in inverted commas, of logic and science and who knows what. This just works. And it works for every individual, however, and accepting who we are right now and experiencing the joy that we have within us and the gender fluidity. I didn't even know these words existed. I'm learning all these new things and I'm going, oh my God, I sound so fucking clever. When I speak to people now, I'm going, I'm gender fluid. How are you? Who are you? A soul that's experiencing a human moment. But it works. It works for me. And I want to thank you, Tyran, Gareth, Karin, for your time. Thank you very, very much. And have an awesome day. Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye. Yoo-hoo! Thank you for listening to this episode. If you really enjoyed this podcast, why don't you subscribe? Hop on over to futureforwardhub.com and sign up for the newsletter. I would love to keep in contact with you about new episode releases and, of course, the live Future Forward Hub events. And, by the way, if you have a burning topic that you want to converse about, apply on futureforwardhub.com/podcast, scroll to the bottom of the page and apply to be on the podcast. And you know what would be really appreciative? Subscribing on your favorite listening platform and leaving us a review. Let us know how we're doing. This means the world to us. And until the next episode, thank you for being a part of the community. I love you. Mwah.